Hey guys, it's Gar389 here, and welcome back. Got another Galactic Civilizations 3 update video for you guys. So, the last time we talked about Galactic Civilizations 3, there really wasn't much to talk about, so I just went through the, what are they called again? The information that they had up on their website, which basically described Galactic Civilizations 2 and what you can expect from Galactic Civilizations 3. And the only, new thing that we got out of it is that they're going to have multiplayer, and that they might be revamping the combat system. However, there are now 3 news articles down here that I'd like to talk about that gives us a little bit more depth into what we can actually come to expect from the game. Now, I'm going to do them in reverse chronological order. I'm going to start with the newest and work my way down. That way I don't end up repeating myself, because I can just I can just not talk about the things that are mentioned in the most recent update when I'm talking about the one all the way at the bottom, because there are a couple of areas where they give more up-to-date information in the most recent article and less up-to-date information in the less recent article. But anyways, I would put the trailer in the background, but I'm a little worried that they might take my video down for putting the trailer in the background, so we're just going to talk, and I'll post up some images along the way. You guys can look at the images that are popping up on the screen. That'll give you an idea of what you're looking at here. So anywho, in the first article here from PCN Gamer, they were talking about reading between the lines of what they're saying, or what Stardock is saying in the interview, and the conclusion they came to is that Stardock, at least from what I understood of what they wrote, is that Stardock is staying very close to their roots with this game. They don't want to change anything that would take away from the magic that was Galactic Civilizations 2, as they talk about how it was such a huge success for them, and they kind of want to find their way back to a little of the magic that made that possible. And we'll get to that a little bit. Well, actually, we'll get to that right now. So what they mentioned is that games today are polished down to their bare essentials, but they don't want to do that. They want players to feel like their game is a little bit more alive and that there's stuff there to discover. Now, I agree and disagree with that at the same time. First off, I don't agree that games today are polished down to their bare essentials. I think games today are too under-polished. Back when I was a kid, if you released a game and it wasn't finished, that was it. It was done. You can't do like take back. You can't just go, oh, I'll post-release a patch for it. That wasn't invented until, I don't know, around the year 2000. I guess it existed in the 90s, but it was much less of a thing. Post-release patching wasn't really a thing. You got that with some 90s games, but it wasn't a thing. For the most part, you released the game and it was done. If it wasn't done, you just screwed over your customers. But in the mid-2000s, it became like a trend that you release games unfinished. You release them unfinished, and then you post-patch them. And basically what that amounts to is that the initial release of most games these days are a beta test for the game. And you can see that with, Battlefield 4. It was released way before it should have been, and they just used the complaints as feedback to make the game better. Simple as that. But if that's what they meant by this, is that they're going to release the product unfinished, then I don't agree with them. I think that's a stupid idea. I think they should go the way they did with Galactic Civilizations 2 and try to make it as complete as possible when they release it. And I know Galactic Civilizations 2 had a ton of patches, but those were mostly balance patches and performance patches. And I do understand that they won't have a perfect game on release. No one has a perfect game on release, and the standards of how a game should be and how close to perfect it should be have gone up considerably since the 90s, when games were released and not patched. They were patched occasionally. I do know some examples of games that came out in 95 that got patches, but it wasn't as common. It wasn't as normal as it is now in the post-2000 era to keep patching games that aren't, content patches or, actual add-ons to the game. But the second part of it, that they want to make a game that's a little rough around the edges, that feels alive and like there's stuff to explore and discover. I mean, I agree with that. And I can use Minecraft as a good example of that. It's a game that's very rough around the edges. Some of the mechanics don't seem to make sense, but the fact that you can take advantage of those mechanics and make your own experience out of them is, fun. You can take, for instance, some stones that don't have gravity on them, they don't fall down, and build a flying fortress, and then you can put water up there and stuff that doesn't make any sense, and you can just do all sorts of crazy stuff with Minecraft. And to that regard, if that's what they mean, is that they want to set some boundaries, but they want to leave a lot of boundaries open. They don't want to focus the experience too much down to like a single linear progression through the game, and there's one way to do it and stuff like that. Then I agree with them. If they want to leave it a lot more open and leave things to be discovered, that's fine. That's good. That's an interesting experience. But yeah, I mean, if what they mean by that is that they're going to release the game, in like a beta state, like a permanent beta state where it keeps getting updated, then I don't agree with that. I think it's stupid to not release a finished product, and I think it's very much harming the gaming industry these days that so many developers are doing that. And I don't think Stardock will do that, because they haven't really done that in the past. They've released games that weren't very good when they released, but they don't usually release unfinished games. So another thing that they mentioned in the article is that each faction will now have a unique tech tree right from the get-go. Those of you who were playing Galactic Civilizations 2 back before Twilight of Honor, they did not have unique tech trees for every class. So every class had the same tech tree, and this made no sense for instance, the Yor, who are machines. They don't need farms. Why do they need farms? And why do farms increase their population growth? This doesn't make any sense. Why would they care about the condition of their planet? Stuff like that. So there will be unique tech trees for each faction right out the door, so that's good. They're also kitting out the ship designs, so there will be more unique things you can add to your ships. So I'm assuming what they mean by that is like unique functional things, not just parts, because you could put lots of parts on your ships in Galactic Civilizations 2, but not all of those parts were functional. Most of the parts were just cosmetic, and you just looked at them. If the background here is getting boring for you guys, I'm going to try to filter in some images like along the way to like state my points and stuff. But if it gets boring, you can just go watch something else and listen to this in the background. It's mostly just a podcast with video in it. So the next thing is that they're making some significant changes to the combat dynamics of the game. One of the examples they mentioned is that weapons no longer automatically hit. And that's a big thing, because in Galactic Civilizations 2, lasers would always hit. So it was just a game of statistics, really. There were some dice rolls, but it was mainly a game of statistics. And a lot of people actually like that. And I do too. I think I hope that it doesn't get to the point where luck can significantly affect the outcome of a battle. Now, I understand if these are like percentages and stuff, but I don't like luck-based strategy games. And Galactic Civilizations 2 does have a lot of luck in it. Like, you can get really lucky with your anomaly finds and stuff, but it's not so lucky to where you will win automatically. And yeah, so I'm a little worried about that, but from what I understand, basically what they're doing is they're adding more arenas in which combat is affected, or more areas in which a combat is affected. So from what I could pull out of the article, accuracy matters, range matters, speed matters, damage and defense obviously matter, but also I'm throwing in rate of fire here. I'm not entirely sure if that will be a feature in the game, but in Galactic Civilizations 2, the weapons actually had different rates of fire. However, it didn't matter. So even though the mass drivers seemed to fire faster, they had the same damage output. So it was a turn-based, damage system. So it would decide that even though it was firing rapid fire and all those shots were hitting, it does exactly the same amount of damage as the 2 or 3 laser shots that were fired that have the same damage value. So that's a new thing. It might be that rate of fire actually matters to like where mass drivers, which I would assume are more close range based weapons, when you get close to an enemy, that they can do a heck of a lot of more damage just because they fire faster. Another thing that they talked about was the AI. They noted that in Fallen Enchantress, a recent release from Stardock, the AI doesn't cheat, and that's also, a strategy 4X game. They mentioned that the AI doesn't cheat, and people were saying, oh, the AI seems really stupid in this game, and they're making a lot of stupid decisions, most likely because they're used to, in strategy games, that the AI just flat out cheats. They know exactly where you are, they know what resources you have, they know if you're in your castle or not. And that's extremely frustrating in some games. In particular, not Galactic Civilizations, but Heroes of Might and Magic does that a lot. You'll have AI that know where the black borders that you've explored are, and they'll hide in the areas that you haven't explored. And once you leave your castle, they'll go and invade it, even though they've never seen your castle, so they don't have it visible on their map. They can't actually see it, but they still know where it is, and they still know exactly when you're not there, which is always very frustrating when you have to deal with that. But what they're doing to fix that is that they're still going to keep the AI at a very high standard or a very high level, but they are going to make the AI more communicative about what they're doing. So, say for instance, the AI has decided to invade you on some grounds, and to you it seems meaningless. Like, why are they invading me? They'll tell you why they're invading you. They'll give you like a little heads up saying, we're invading you because you did this and that. And then you're like, oh, someone set me up. Someone else did that and then pushed it off onto me. So now I'm getting blamed for it. Or, whatever. Or that they're invading you because you're not profitable to them anymore if you're playing with the Yor, for instance. And another thing, further, we're still in the same article here, though. They've also streamlined the AI a bit. So, or sorry, not AI, UI a bit, so that it will be easier to keep a bird's eye view of what's going on in your galaxy at a single time. And I'm going to put an overlay picture here that has to do with the economy system. They got this new circular grid thing going on, and I think it looks pretty neat and interesting. I can also see that could be very frustrating though, because it looks just a little bit hard to get exact numbers and values out of it. But basically what it amounts to is it's a grid, a circular grid with a triangle around the middle, and the 3 base elements of this circle are wealth, manufacturing, and research. So if you go like all the way up to one side, you may have it focused on wealth and manufacturing, whereas if you go all the way to the other side, it might be manufacturing and research. I don't know why you would want to go all the way to one side. You obviously want some balance. You want to earn money, and you want to manufacture, and you want to research at the same time. So you'll probably be somewhere inside the triangle and not out in the fringe areas where you're not actually putting anything into one of them. Let's see, flip to the next page here for a second. Sorry guys. So yeah, and another thing that they were talking about, and this is the one down here in the second column. I hope my image has disappeared, so I'm just going to circle this for a second. Talking about Galactic Civilizations visuals. I can't pronounce visuals. Visuals. There we go. The game will require DirectX 10, which, it doesn't come as much of a surprise. It will be a little unfortunate for people still running XP, or Windows XP, because the game's going to be... I'll get to that in a minute, but the game's going to be a little bit of a memory hog. So if you're still running XP, you might want to consider upgrading your computer for this. But if you've caught on with the stream and you actually have like a Windows 7 or a Windows 8 PC and you have more than 8 gigabytes of RAM, you should probably be able to play the game just fine. Let's see, so they're also talking about the lighting in the game. So that's one of the major things they were talking about in this. And you can see it in some of the pictures that are popping up, is that the different materials will shine differently and reflect light differently. And it's basically just bloom effects and shading and lighting and stuff like that. So they're just adding in modern lighting effects that you would see in most modern games. It's not really like a big deal, but it does matter. It gives the ship designs a more lifelike look, and they call it a more realistic look, but while keeping the surrealistic art style that they've gone with. So things will still look, outlandish and a little bit cartoony, but at the same time it'll have this sort of shine bloom effect. And you can see it in some of those pictures that are popping up in the background, particularly the two with the ships that they're showing. But obviously we'll have to wait until the actual release to see it. But what they've said about how the ships look right now is they look better, but they're not spectacularly so. So they're not as far along as they want to be with the arts and visuals style. They want to further increase it, and they will be doing so up and towards the final release. So the game will look better when the game is released than how it will look in the alpha, and even more so than how they look right now. So obviously those images in the background there that they're showing, those aren't... I'm not entirely sure if those are in-game. I'm pretty sure that that's just, art. It's just drawing. That's kind of how they want it to look, so to speak. So they're gonna... That shine effect in there, it isn't representative of what's in the real game, but it is, what they're going for is, the different materials shine differently, and so on and so forth. So we've already talked about the economy system. Let's see, where are we? So the last part that they have here is they have this, I'm going to circle this again so that I hope that I could get this synced up correctly, because I am going to be putting images in there and using animations between them. And that usually screws up the pacing a little bit here, so that the audio and the video get out of sync. It doesn't matter though. So anyways, they have a little Q&A that they went through, a community interview up at Space Sector. You can click on the link below to get to that. And basically what they talked about is there were a couple of questions that were posted in by community members, and they responded to them. So the first one had to do with whether or not the game will be turn-based or sequential or whatever is going on. And they said that the game will be simultaneous planning, so you make all the decisions for where your ships and stuff are going to go and what all of your plants are going to do, and then you press the next turn button and it goes into a sequence. So you have the battle sequence, you have the production sequence, and so on and so forth, and then it's the next turn. And that allows the AI to take turns at the same time as you. And this is pretty common in 4X games. I don't see that being any sort of major innovation, but it is, it is the way they're doing it. And I think that's how it was in Galactic Civilizations 2 as well. When asked about mod support and whether or not multiplayer will support mods... Hold on, I need a drink of water. Leave you in suspense for a second. Or you could have just read the article. So anyways, mods, yes, but I noticed that they didn't mention multiplayer. Now, that could be an oversight. They could have just read, oh, mods, yeah, mods are in. Or they may have just thought that saying mods are in means obviously, or mods are a thing is obviously saying that it will also be a thing in multiplayer. But they didn't mention multiplayer directly. And I don't feel like that's an oversight. And I'm a little worried that mods and multiplayer won't go so well together, at least initially. And it depends on what kind of multiplayer setup they have and what kind of multiplayer mechanics they have and whether it goes through Steam. Because obviously if it goes through Steam, it's going to have anti-cheat protection, in which case mods might actually be an issue. So it kind of depends on how they develop it and how they work with Steam's anti-cheat measures. So as of now, we don't know if mods are going to work in multiplayer. They will work in single player. That seems to be a definite answer. They did say that mods have been a huge part of their community, and they want to support it, and they're going to leave, a lot of XML files in there that are easy to edit, which is great for me because I can edit XML files, but I don't know how to do like actual coding. I just know how to change values and set up XML stuff. But yeah, they didn't mention multiplayer, so I'm a little worried about that. Planet management will be similar to Galactic Civilizations 2. No surprise there. It was fairly good. I hope they do change some of it, though, because it became a little bit tedious to manage all of your planets individually and tell them to build this and that and this and that in the same order for pretty much every planet. One thing that I'm really happy about is they mentioned that they are focusing on single player first and multiplayer second. So they're focusing on single player, and they're going to build a good single player game with a robust AI. This was a question about AI, obviously. And they want to make the AI in the single player as good as possible, and then they're going to put multiplayer on top of that. Which is good. That means maybe the alpha release will be single player only. I hope it's not multiplayer only, because then I probably won't play it. I don't want to get stomped by everyone. The game will be 64-bit and require quite a bit of memory. I think it was 3.5 gigabytes of RAM. So it's big. And that's not surprising. I mean, it's a 4X game. They have the entire map loaded all the time. They have all the computers loaded at the same time. They need the multi-threading to allow turns to happen in sequence rather than, you then me, then you, then me, then you, then me, etc. RPG elements will not be a thing. Someone asked if there will be RPG elements, and no, there won't be. There will be, upgrading and leveling up upgrading your ships and making them better, and maybe the level up system that they had in Galactic Civilizations 2, where your ships get better over time, but no RPG elements, no leveling up commanders or anything like that. There will be new planetary invasion mechanics. Which is something I think we've heard about before, and that's cool. But they won't tell us anything. They said no comment on that. They just said, yeah, there's going to be new planetary invasion mechanics, but we're not going to tell you about them. So you'll just have to wait, I guess. And I'll have to wait. Custom factions, will that be a thing? Yeah. You can still make custom factions. You can create your own race or whatever. Special resources will exist in Galciv 2. They mentioned that it's primarily things that will make it more efficient for you to annihilate other species and stuff like that. I guess, that's just, to be cheeky, to be funny, but, it's, they're going to have special resources, kind of the same as they had in Galactic Civilization 2. And the game will also be Steam only, which is, unfortunate for some people. And there's also no boxed edition, which will be unfortunate for me, because I do like to collect games. I have Galactic Civilizations 2 only in digital form. I didn't buy a boxed version of it. I don't even know if there was a boxed version of it, and I don't think the boxed version exists anymore. So yeah, they're going to be releasing it all digital all the way, and it's going to be Steam requiring. It will require Steam to function because they're using the Steam anti-cheat measures for multiplayer. And the final question was, what are the most significant innovations? And I'll just go through those in a list. And these are a little bit exciting. So they've got a new culture system. Map hexes. I'll put another picture in here. Bloop, so you guys can see it. And the multiplayer features are new. Like, there was no multiplayer before, but now there is. So that's a significant innovation for them. And new battle system is a significant innovation, and we've talked about that one already with the with more factors playing into who actually wins in space battles, which is cool. And interstellar terrain. Now, there are some... I think I might put another image up here, actually, if I can find one. But basically what they mean by that is probably things like asteroids and nebulas. You can see them in some of the pictures that appear on the screen there. And black holes and like all that cool stuff. So anyways, that's all I have for today, and I'm going to try and get this edited and posted as quickly as possible so I can get back to working on my master's thesis. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you haven't. If you want to see more content from me on Galactic Civilizations 3 when the game actually releases and when the alpha comes out. I did buy the Founders Edition, which means I should be in on the exclusive alpha and the exclusive beta, I mean. And I thought that you got alpha access and stuff like that, but yeah, I guess it's beta. Yeah, so it's probably just beta. It says right up here in the Become a Founder corner. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna end the video here, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye.